Before I start today's video, happy 20th to Jimmy Mac 471. Hope this video livens up your birthday. So, you all may be screaming at me right now, but you hate Fanstoys! You literally just talked so much trash on how all their stuff looks terrible! And yeah, that's true, but look at the actual masterpiece. Can you blame me? Sure, that's a prototype, but the Starscream 3.0 prototype looked exactly like the finished thing, just without a face. And you may also remember that when I went to buy this because of how bad the actual MP looks, they sold out before I could get to them. Yeah, I had to pick this up on eBay for 40 bucks more than normal. Not a terrible price, but it turns out I should have just waited again because they reprinted these things almost immediately. Oh well, what's 40 bucks in the face of this already overpriced thing anyways? And you know what? Credit where credit's due. This looks a lot better than almost anything else the company produces. And yes, we have the return of the big figure setup. And yet, it's still an absolute pain to film this guy because he is so huge. The wide-angle lens just isn't really cutting it. This is scaled to work with masterpieces, and that means that this guy is bigger than a lot of even third-party combiners. It's not like the previous video wasn't hard enough to film already. He's not quite reaching Titan scale, but he's making a respectable attempt to. And the look of this thing is quite accurate, kind of making you wonder what Hasbro is thinking they are doing and what they're smoking, because this doesn't look terrible like that does. The surfaces are perhaps a bit plain, but the proportions are very close to what the show looked like, doing a mild one-up on the Siege by having the properly narrow waist and backpack. Though I do find his legs look like they are excessively long, but they don't seem to be. When I measure them, they seem to come out exactly the length they are supposed to be, but they just look too long. That said, the proportions might be a bit accurate to a fault here, as they've given him some really uncool looking pipe cleaner arms. And yeah, that's accurate to the show, but do you really want them to look like this still? The feet are kind of a problem. These have heels built on, but they don't actually work. They don't contact with the ground. He's actually resting on the faces of his thrusters. You might think that they keep him from tipping too far backwards, but this one is too loose for that. And even so, they only hit the ground when it's too late to do anything about all the momentum coming back on them. The hands are also really fucking ugly. Yeah, it's awesome that it has segmented posable fingers, but they look so fake. They don't look like robot fingers, they look like toy fingers. But this also does a lot right. It's got nice little accents of color all over the place, though this metallic red on the sides of his shins is a little out of place when there's nothing else even remotely like that on the rest of the figure. It's nice looking, just weirdly alien to the rest of the figure. It has all the correct details. For the scale it's going for, it's nicely sized, it's well painted, proportions are great, materials feel solid, and I don't know. Something about this just doesn't grab me like the Siege version does. It sure looks cool, and in comparison with the Siege, it's absolutely more accurate to the show, but when I look at that, I am blown away with how much I'm in love with the look of it. When I look at this, I think, yeah, that's a pretty good looking figure. It's weird, I feel no passion about how this looks. I don't hate it, I don't love it, I don't dislike it, I just like it. It's okay. I'll tell you what's not okay is the noises this thing makes while you handle it. Oh my god, I knew to expect what they call the Fanstoys squeak, but I was not prepared for every single joint on this thing to make a completely different, diseased like it's on its deathbed, cacophony of horrors. Listen to the noises this thing makes. I'm so sorry I had to do that to you all. Oh my god, what the fuck, right? Every last one of those is terrible to listen to. I have never run into a figure that makes me grimace with every last microscopic movement, with the legs being the absolute worst of it. Oh, those sounds will keep me up at night shaking in fear. The head is uncanny as all fucking hell, and also is some of the company's least disturbing work. I don't like looking at this thing, but at least it's not this. It doesn't help that the tip of mine's nose broke off in transit, so the face is even less appealing to look at. Just look at him and his way too human face, with the sunken cheeks and defined cheekbones. I know he had them in the show, but he didn't look like he had a human face in a helmet with a very defined bone structure. Hate it! One thing I do have to give props for though is those eyes, with their shining blue chrome. Oh, those look so good. And I have some distressing news to tell you. These are light piping eyes. I guess all good things come to an end. Couldn't get 3 videos in a row where I get to shit on light piping. I have to go back to being kind to this damn feature. But... holy crap, this was always an option? You mean you can have chromed eyes that light piping still works through? Why don't people do this every time they try to add shitty light piping to something? I mean, the backpack blocks you from using this, like the backpack blocked using light piping on all the Skyfire figures so far. Why do all these guys use this same stupid gimmick? But yeah, this means that a company can make their shit, and I don't have to eat it. I mean, the light piping sucks here. Oh, thank God, I can still crap on it a little. But everyone wins. I mean, everyone wins if the eyes are just chromed in general, but if you suffer from some kind of weird compulsion that requires light piping, then this does have that. Seriously though, more chromed eyes and less light piping. It's okay to give us both, but never do just light piping on its own ever again. But yes, in general, this guy looks good. Objectively, he looks like the show. If you want something that looks like the show and is big enough to fit a masterpiece scale collection, or just a really big Skyfire figure, then this is that. I don't know why this thing doesn't grab me with its looks. I know that it's good, and I do like it, I just don't feel this thing's appearance. I don't know how to better put it. He comes with a gun and some bullshit, so I'm just gonna talk about the gun. Again, it's G1. I think it actually does look bad and wrong, though. It's a bit swollen and bulbous. There's just something off about the ratio of barrel to body going on here that I find really unpleasant to look at. It's got this nub in here, and I figure that's supposed to plug into something, but I can't figure out where. Maybe it's just supposed to be a charging handle? It's a bit of a pain to get him to hold it, but unlike most figures, you can get his finger in the trigger guard, though it doesn't have a lot of grip, so it can easily be knocked out. And now that I've said that, this is probably going to be borderline glued into his fist while I try to film it. Posing on this guy is both good and terrible at the same time. Let me explain. Head has more than average range up and a tiny amount down. Shoulders get just a hair shy of all the way out to the sides because of this thing blocking it, but you can cheat it. Arms have nothing blocking them from going forward, but they hold like a joke. These aren't detented, they're ratchets, and they are pathetically weak. These might be the weakest ratchets I've ever seen. Good luck getting him to hold his gun up. No butterfly in either direction. He's got maximum elbows and fully articulated hands with even some palm out movements, so while they are very ugly, they are great hands. He only has the barest amount of rotation at the waist possible if you do a lot of work to untransform him. It's so limited and such a pain to get, as far as you should be concerned he doesn't have one. Thighs do a pathetic job going forward and a worse job going back, and unlike most figures, its out to the side also sucks and has absolutely no hold. It can't even support the leg on its own with no added motion. Thigh swivels, but so does the knee for some reason, and it's like it's on greased ball bearings, it's so insanely loose. Knees only pull a 90. Feet have 2 different toe downs, the barest amount of sideways tilt possible, and useless heels that make this thing very precarious to stand. So, if we are just looking at the figure's upper body and not taking tolerances into account, this would be a fantastically posing figure. If we are just looking at the figure's lower body and not taking tolerances into account, this is a very badly posing figure. And when we do start taking both halves and the tolerances into account, we get an ugly picture. Were it just the legs being really lacking along with the waist, I could have said that this has really good articulation. But with the tolerances being as unbearably weak as they are, I have to knock this thing down a good several pegs because I'm afraid to leave it in any pose other than an eye stance for fear of it falling over and damaging itself. So it could be good, but there are too many caveats for me to actually call it that. Before I get into the transformation, out of the box he comes horribly mistransformed looking like this, and that almost broke me when I saw it. Transformation is pretty fun, but there are some really frustrating parts, like getting his back tab out when going to robot mode, or unlocking his legs from his torso, and he ends up a really floppy mess partway through the process. The most concerning part is probably getting the cockpit to open up, cause it really feels like you could end up snapping something off at this point. These little stabilizers back here love to pop off. Don't plug these parts in tight at all, believe me, they are a pain if you do. I also advise you not to peg the feet all the way in. If you do, they are a whore to get back out, and I don't know what these things do. They are not required for any part of the transformation. I honestly just leave these feet mostly alone as I like the extra boosters. I don't know why they put thrusters in the bottom of the feet that you are meant to hide during the transformation. The last step is to break out the landing gear, which is a pain in the butt, and also you don't have to transform this if you don't want to. If you find that you prefer the back end not having a larger split down it, then this is an option. Personally, I think it's fine without the extra step. The end result though is this, and it's really pretty damn good. It's absolutely huge, and it looks really accurate. I'm personally not the biggest fan of the nose cone, as I think it's clear with this step in the face of it that it folds away. I much prefer how the Siege manages to keep these lines straight, but it's not a huge bother. The gap here though is pretty unsightly, and its underside is a little better than the Siege, but it's weirdly similar. Chest panels end up in the same place, and the shoulders do the same thing. The difference here is that you can see his head chilling out in his guts. It's a little concealed with this weird metal scaffold I think is supposed to be holding the figure together, but it absolutely refuses to plug in, and it holds fine without. So I just leave this folded up inside the nose cone. It's ugly anyways. Even so, it's absolutely a better undercarriage than the Siege, though you are obviously not supposed to display it from this side with its infinity billion tiny screws. Did it really need to be screwed together 22 times in each wing? Had they not heard of glue? But don't let all the complaining I just did taint this for you. This is a very good looking, very satisfying mode, which very much looks like the show model it's emulating. And I could nitpick this to death, but I do like this mode a lot. Like the other figure, it's got an opening cockpit, but you can't fit anything in it because of this seating arrangement. Though it seems like this might hinge in to allow something in there, but it doesn't want to move for me, and I don't want to break this, so I can have a gap where maybe I could fit a headmaster. No seating in the backpack, unlike the Siege. I have come to find that these flappy things in the wings are called Ailerons, and this has a working set as well. But yes, this is a pretty well-featured, very good-looking version of his alt mode, and quite frankly, I don't know what to say about this at this point. Robot mode is accurate to the character and looks good in general, and I really like what they did with the chromed eyes, but it doesn't inspire me for some reason. Quite possibly because the head is a crime against good aesthetics. Posing would be really good were it not let down by its awful tolerances. Transformation is good, but with some unfortunate frustrations that just didn't have to be there, from certain tabs being too tight and pointless steps being added in for seemingly no reason that you can literally just not do and end up with a perfectly serviceable alt mode. And the alt mode is fantastic, but I don't like it as much as the Siege's alt mode. Don't go thinking it's a foregone conclusion which one of these wins a what's the best just because the Siege appeals to me personally so much more. But yeah, I don't know what to say about this thing. I like it, but it leaves me wanting. Is it worth $300? No, I absolutely think that they should climb out of their own ass with that price. $200 is more than fair for this. $300, and sure, they sell, but I think that's more due to the cult than the actual value of the product. As far as this goes, for a masterpiece scale replacement for the official MP, this absolutely looks like it's probably going to be the better option. Hell, the masterpiece will probably cost more. But I'd be lying if I said that this completely satisfies me. Oh, and since I forgot to say it in the last video, you probably don't need this or the MP because the Siege Skyfire is a micro masterpiece, even at the overcharged rates it's currently going for. If you can find that for $80, go for it. But at the $140 it goes for right now, I'm just saying that if I didn't have the Siege Skyfire, I would buy that at that price in a heartbeat. And that's not half of what I have to say, but it's enough of what I have to say. And I know you know what everyone else tells you to do at the end of these videos. So, if you liked what you saw here, please do that. And if you'd like to take it a step further, then please share this video with any friend you think may be interested. I hope you all enjoyed listening to me waste your time.